You're watching First Alert 7 News at 9 on the CW and live on YouTube with Lauren Munt and weather with Tom Tiefertiller.
The rain today has put a damper on the first week of high school football games. You're looking at historic Ratliff Stadium, where they had a couple lightning delays along with most of our other local teams. Coming up in just a few minutes, we're going to see if any of them were able to play and take a quick look at the scores. That's coming up in sports. Thanks for joining us for First Alert 7 News on the CW, and thanks to those of you joining us live on the First Alert YouTube. I'm Lauren Munt, and we start tonight across Texas, where a Dallas police officer is dead and 2 others are injured after a shooting early this morning. Officers responded to an officer in distress call on Thursday night, and when they got to the scene, a police officer was already shot in his car. Dallas police say that gunfight broke out between the responding officers and a suspect at the scene. That led to 2 more injuries, one in critical condition and one in stable condition. The suspect ran away from the scene and police chased him. Eventually, the suspect got out of his car with a, quote, long gun, and responding officers shot and killed the suspect.
Our department is hurting. We have officers who are injured, who are in the hospital, and we lost one of our own. We asked tonight and this morning for the thoughts and prayers of our city, for not only those who are recovering in the hospital, but for our fallen, for their family, and for their loved ones.
Police officers left the hospital in a processional honoring the officer that was killed in the shooting, and the Dallas Police Department is flying its flags at half staff. The Odessa Police Department released a statement earlier today in support of the Dallas Police, saying, part, quote, the Odessa Police Department would like to express condolences to the Dallas Police Department and family of the Dallas PD officer who was ambushed and killed last night. The flags in front of OPD have been lowered to half staff, and OPD officers will also be wearing warning bands, over their badges in remembrance of the fallen Dallas police officer. We're going to turn now to a traffic alert out of Ector County that starts next week. TxDOT says that there will be ramp closures on I-20 next Wednesday. The frontage road eastbound off-ramp will be shut down at East Loop 338, and then on Thursday, crews will shut down the westbound on-ramp at the loop going towards JBS. This project will not be completed until next February. Turning to some oil and gas news, you can look forward to some lower prices at the pump this holiday weekend. Gas Buddy projects that the national average for gas on Labor Day will be $3.27 a gallon. Now, that's the cheapest it's been for the holiday since 2021. Over the weekend, Americans could spend a total of $750 million less on gas than they did last year. The recent drop in gas prices can be attributed to weaker oil prices, softer demand for gasoline, and fewer major refinery outages than this time last summer. Turning now to a developing story out of Fort Stockton. Last week, Belding Farms, a 60-year-old pecan farm, petitioned the local groundwater district to create a mitigation fund for water wells. For years, Belding Farms has been proactive in conserving water, understanding that in Texas and West Texas in particular, water is a finite resource. They've made several innovations to reduce their water usage, including replacing traditional dirt canals with concrete channels, laser leveling the orchard to keep water contained within the area, and spending $500,000 in trial research for high-efficiency sprinklers.
Which so far early data suggesting we're saving an acre-foot per acre. So potentially over 2,000 acre-feet a year that could stay in the ground rather than being put out.
Despite their efforts, the farm now says they face risks from Midland's water demands, which could jeopardize their aquifer.
And that's what Belding Farms' mission is. It's not to prevent the export of water to Midland or other cities, but it's to protect the local users of that water and ensure that water is used responsibly and managed appropriately.
Now, to be clear, Belding is not against water exports, but everything is interconnected. So they want all parties to be held fiscally responsible for the protection of the aquifer and this vital resource. Speaking of this vital resource, lots of water in West Texas today. Tons of rain. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Tom Tiefertiller. Tom.
Yes, we've seen some heavy rain across portions of the Permian Basin. Here's a look at the amount so far, upwards to an inch plus. Now coming in 1.60 for the day at Midland Air Park, 52/100ths in Midland, and at probably about half an inch over towards the Odessa area. Big Spring coming out with 1.64 inches, so some heavy amounts out there across the area, leading to some flash flood warnings. We did have those in effect across the Midland area, still do here. probably going until 10:30 tonight for runoff that could cause flooding of low-lying areas. Numerous intersections having water, the usual spots out there. Scarborough Draw running with water pretty good and causing some flooded intersections too. But the rain is starting to come to an end. Most of the scattered showers and thunderstorms now pushing south of Crane, southeast of Garden City, but still some activity here south of Pecos, down towards areas east of Balmorhea. Taking a look outside, still some raindrops falling out at the on our live iCam in Midland right now. It really has cooled temperatures off into the lower 70s out there at the present time. So we're expecting a cooler overnight, down around 70 on the overnight low. More rain chances are on the way, and we'll talk more about those coming up here in a few minutes.
Happening all weekend long, the Permian Basin Fair and Expo is officially open. And even though it might be a little rainy this weekend, the fair is in full swing with over 40 rides that are up and running. Even though it looks pretty put together right now, this fair takes a lot of manpower to get to this point. The Permian Basin Fair and Expo is a nonprofit organization, which means there's only 2 part-time paid employees that run with the fair year-round. Everything else is the work of over 300 volunteers. These volunteers start the framework for this fair as early as January. And from January to May, they're working on the layout of the fair and securing vendors and performers.
And then once we have a good handle on the size of the fair, then we start to spread it out on the grounds. We start to know where we need to put all the larger events first, of course, just like, Tinker Toys in the toy box. You got to put the big parts in first. So a lot of that work is done by June or July.
The fair will be open until September 8th. Also this weekend, Balmorhea will host its first annual Labor Day Parade with lineup beginning at 8 a.m. at Central Gray Park. And the parade will start officially at 10 a.m. tomorrow. There will be tributes to past and present historical labor movements, a celebration of current workers from various professions, and a look at innovations and advancements in the workforce. The event is free and open to the public. Turning to some education news, the Education Foundation's Bookworms Literacy Program got a boost today. It came in the form of a $40,000 donation that came from ConocoPhillips. The mascot of the program is Scooter the Bookworm, who visited Dowling Elementary School to celebrate. The literacy program promotes early literacy for Odessa students, and it helps them hone their reading skills.
I think reading is very important, especially now with all the electronics being used more than anything. So just to see a child reading a book is just a really good experience.
Dowling Elementary and Hayes Elementary will get new books from this donation. And it is the first week of high school football. Lots of our teams in the area, including Plano versus Permian. They were on a bit of a rain delay, but they did get to play. Plano has struggled to find consistent wins. The team's last winning season was in 2017. Permian has made the playoffs every year since 2016, and these two teams used to play each other quite often, creating a rivalry. The two coaches wanted to work on bringing that rivalry back.
And it's great to bring this game back, this rivalry back. So there's been some great stories that I've heard from people and of those games that have happened in the past, and I'm very fortunate. Coach White reached out last year, and when he had gotten the job, and he had worked here as well, and he said, "Coach, look, we need to get this thing back going." So glad he reached out, and we're excited about it.
Permian will have Jacob Garcia under center for the second year in a row, again rocking that number 25 jersey. The Panthers will have to work on replacing the production of running back Justice Lara, who graduated, and he's committed to play at UTPB. Midland Legacy, they're in Allen, facing the Eagles to open the 2024 season. It's a rematch of last year's regional round playoff game. Allen got the better of the Rebels, winning 52-35 then. Legacy enters tonight's game ranked number 35 in the state according to Dave Campbell's. Allen ranked number 17. And the Rebels aren't the only local 6A team in the Dallas-Fort Worth area tonight. Midland High, they're in Southlake Carroll to open up their season. Southlake enters tonight's game ranked number 7 in the state in 6A. So it's going to be a tough task for the Bulldogs. We'll have all those highlights on Friday Night Blitz, but before we go to Blitz, let's take a quick look at the scores. Lots of games happening tonight. Legacy not doing well against Allen. I believe that's 43-0. Midland High losing to Southlake Carroll 42-17. Lots more scores up there, down to 1A. Alpine losing 20-12. Kahoma, that game looks like it's scheduled maybe in a lightning delay. Lots and lots of games going on. Tonight is the first night of Friday Night Blitz, where First Alert 7 will have coverage all across the Permian Basin. We'll have the full coverage of all of the teams and all of those final scores from 6A all the way down to six-man football. That'll be tonight after First Alert 7 news at 10. Coming up, the race for Texas Senate is one of the most closely watched elections across the nation. We've got an in-depth interview with both candidates coming up next. It's one of the most closely watched races this Senate cycle, and one that could determine the balance of power in Washington. Democratic Congressman Colin Allred and Republican Senator Ted Cruz are vying to represent Texas in that upper chamber. Both sat down with Michael Richardson from our sister station in Tyler to discuss their plans to improve the economy, reduce illegal immigration, and even more.
For one candidate, it's not their first rodeo. It's his third. For another, it's his first time in the statewide spotlight. Representative Colin Allred's appearance at the DNC underscored the national implications of this year's election for who will represent the Lone Star State in the U.S. Senate.
And this November, I'm going to beat Ted Cruz.
My record is one of delivering results for the people of Texas for 12 years consistently.
Both Allred and Senator Ted Cruz are trying to garner up as much support in East Texas as possible. That's why they campaigned in the Piney Woods region this week. The economy is at the forefront of many voters' minds heading into November. To fix it, Cruz imprints conservative beliefs. Less regulations means more jobs.
Jobs come from small businesses. Jobs come from entrepreneurs putting capital at risk to meet a need. But if you want to create an environment where jobs are plentiful, you want low taxes and you want low and reasonable regulations.
Allred's economic agenda? Raising teacher salaries, lowering the cost of childcare, and increasing the number of houses available.
And what is that plan, if you don't mind me asking, regarding housing?
Well, to me, we're going to have to work out the details of it. But we know we have fundamentally a supply issue, which means that we need to build more housing. And the housing that we build has to be affordable and connected.
Many provisions of the Trump tax cuts are set to expire next year. The Congressional Budget Office estimates extending those cuts could increase the U.S. deficit by over $3 trillion over 10 years. Cruz wants to extend them.
Donald Trump has rightly said he would extend those tax cuts, and if we have majorities, I'm going to be fighting not just to extend them, but to make them bigger and bolder.
Allred says,
what I want to make sure is that we lower the tax burden on the middle class. To me, that's the heart of our economy in our country. It's also folks who are paying in so many ways into the system, and we have to make sure that that tax burden doesn't go up for them.
Immigration has consistently polled as a top issue for voters this election. Last December, there were roughly 250,000 encounters at the southern border, the highest ever recorded. It was noticed by both major parties. Earlier this year, a bipartisan group of senators introduced legislation that would have provided over $20 billion to try and curb illegal immigration. That includes over $500 million to hire more immigration personnel, $47.5 million for more mobile surveillance technologies, and policies to close the border if enough people cross in a day or 7-day average, 8,500 and 5,000 individuals respectively. Cruz voted against it. He explains why.
And that particular bill was a terrible bill. It was a partisan bill that Chuck Schumer was responsible for, and it would have made the problem worse.
In contrast, Allred supported the legislation. And unlike Cruz, he does not support a wall along the entire southern border.
I've never supported the idea that we should have a wall from sea to shining sea. That doesn't make any sense. But there are areas, particularly high traffic areas, and that's where I've said, and we have, physical barriers, and that's the right thing to do in those places.
Both candidates have cited their records as a reason voters should choose them. Cruz has been in elected office longer than Allred and has been a vocal supporter of term limits. January 2023 was just one instance when he introduced a constitutional amendment limiting senators to 2 terms. He's running for his 3rd.
What would you say to voters who agree with your amendment and would like to see you step aside as a result and not run?
Well, listen, I am a strong, passionate believer in term limits. There's a world of difference between supporting a reform that would apply across the board versus unilaterally term limiting myself when nobody else is following it. I've never said that I would do that.
If reelected, Cruz says he wants to create jobs in various energy sectors.
My view on energy is all of the above. I believe in every energy source, oil and gas and wind and solar and nuclear and everything.
Allred echoes a similar sentiment.
It's an all of the above approach, and it has to be. For us, oil and gas is critically important. It's going to remain critically important. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't continue to invest in solar and wind. To me, Texas is an energy state. We always will be. We've led the world. We have to continue to do that.
2 candidates, 2 different versions of the policies that would best represent Texas. Between them, some similarities. A desire to create jobs in various types of energy is an example. Voters will make their decision on November 5th. Michael Richardson, KLTV 7 News.
Very heavy rainfall today across parts of the Permian Basin in West Texas, especially in Midland where flooding is currently occurring. We'll talk more about that coming up next.
Now, from the First Alert 7 Weather Center, here's Chief Meteorologist Tom Tiefertiller.
Well, taking a look at rainfall amounts again across the area, very heavy over towards the city of Midland, over 1.5 inches, coming down a little bit earlier today. And into this evening, 1.64 over towards the Big Spring area. So those are the areas where we did see a little bit of flooding being reported in both the Midland County and Howard County areas. 1/2 inch out at the Miller National Air and Spaceport. About that over towards the city of Odessa. So again, heavy rainfall amounts moving right across the central Permian Basin. Here's a look at the live radar showing you a lot of that is winding down, but the flooding threat's still there for some runoff. So a flash flood warning is still in effect as numerous intersections, especially along Wadley and Loop 250 and some of the side roads there are experiencing some flooding at the present time. And that flash flood warning goes until 10:30. Again, got to allow some of this to run off as we're seeing most of the rain, though, push off to the south and southeast. Still rain coming down in Big Spring, but it has lightened up quite a bit across those areas. And also over towards Pecos, looking at some showers and thunder showers at the present time on down towards Balmorhea. Here's a look at the live iCam in Pecos right now, seeing some raindrops out there. It's cool temperatures off to 69 there in Reeves County. 69 is what we have out at the Miller National Air and Spaceport thanks to the rain that has been coming down. It's all associated with a cold front interacting with all this moisture moving in off the Pacific and the Gulf of Mexico. Again, that is causing the rain to come down across most areas as this front pushes south to southeast. Now, the futurecast shows a lot of the thunder shower activity winding down towards the early morning hours. This tries to bring a little bit more in towards morning with a little disturbance. I think it's going to kick off some showers and thunder showers for tomorrow. Rest of tonight, we'll see temperatures again around 70. Isolated showers and thunder showers, especially western Permian Basin into the Trans-Pecos. And then we'll see them area-wide coming up tomorrow afternoon, scattered about. And look at that, milder temperatures on the way. Here's a look at that First Alert 7 10-day forecast. Seeing those temperatures cooling off quite a bit as rain chances look to continue.
Here at 9, if you're heading out this holiday weekend, you're going to want to stick around and see how busy your travel day might be. That's coming up next. If you're heading out this holiday weekend, you might need to pack your patience. The Labor Day holiday travel period is underway, and the TSA projects that Friday will be the busiest travel day for flyers. The agency expects to screen a record-breaking 17 million people at airports from Thursday through Wednesday. Nearly 3 million of them will be on Friday. And according to AAA, domestic travel over the Labor Day weekend is forecasted to be up 9%. That's compared to this time last year. Still ahead, we've got another look at your First Alert forecast. That's coming up after the break.
Well, that flash flood warning remains in effect for the city of Midland, north central Midland County until 10:30 because runoff is causing some flooding issues in and around the city of Midland and Odessa too, and Big Spring. But it looks like the rain is ended for tonight for the most part. We'll be looking at more of these scattered showers and thunder showers in our forecast coming up for tomorrow into Sunday as that front starts to roll through once again. And we're going to see it continue into Monday, so it looks like those temperatures will cool off quite a bit into the lower to mid 70s by Labor Day. And then we'll see some isolated thunderstorm chances start next week.
Lots of flash flooding happening.
Yes.
Lots of deep water. Turn around, don't drown. Stay out of it if you can't make it out.
Yeah, it's going to take a little while for things to drain off a little bit this evening, but it looks like the heaviest rain has ended for tonight.
We do need it, though.
We do.
Thanks for joining us for First Alert News at 10. We've got more news. Or First Alert News at 9. We've got more news coming up at 10.